Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Learning Power Up, bite-sized professional learning for the busy educator. I am, if I can get my, there we go. I am Cody Holt, Coordinator of Instructional Design here for Royce ISD, and today I'm going to be talking about one-point rubrics, also sometimes called single-point rubrics. So, single-point rubrics or one-point rubrics, what I want to do is I want to kind of break this down into three parts. I want to talk about why we would use one-point rubrics. Secondly, I want to talk about what are they, what do they look like. Third, how would you use one, and actually show you some examples from different content areas. And then as a bonus engagement strategy, I want to talk to you about the IQ slap down. So we'll go ahead and get into the rubrics. So the why behind one-point rubrics, actually I'm going to start with the cons. Some reasons why a traditional, multi-point rubric might work better is sometimes a multi-point rubric can take less time to grade. That's not always the case, but if you have kids that are doing really bad at the assignment or really great at the assignment, sometimes that can take a little longer. The other con is if you're trying to compare your results to another teacher that's teaching the same content, gave the same assignment, because there's not as many numerical um, places there, it's kind of difficult to compare apples to apples with a single point or one-point rubric. But the pros are, first, they're way easier to make than a multi-point rubric because you only have 1 point to take care of. And that makes them very simple to use and be able to grade. And it's something that you could easily have kids grade themselves on with a single point rubric. It gives space for kids to reflect on their own learning, especially when you give the rubric to them and allow them to say, did I get above or below what's expected? Much more flexibility, so you don't have to assume, every variable about how the assignment's going to go. You just have this is an expectation, and this was either below standard or above standard. It can also help take the focus off the grade because you don't even have to assign a point value to that. You can really make it about did they learn the concept and did they not? And then finally, you're going to get a lot better feedback or be able to provide a lot better feedback with a single point rubric versus using multiple points. Okay. So what is a one-point rubric? On the right, you see an example of a one-point rubric created by Jennifer Gonzalez from Cult of Pedagogy. And on the left is kind of a description of what she's talking about. It looks like I cut off part of the word there, but the main thing here is a single point rubric. What it does is you take the proficient. What is okay, you met the standard where I want you to be at. This is what it would look like. And that's all you put down as your criteria. So you don't have, the one, this is below average and approaching, and I'm at where I need to be and exceeding. You don't have to define all that. You just define the one that's proficient, or this is good. This would be on level. Would be another way to think about that. And then on the left or the right of that, you have spaces that you would put. Okay, if they were below that standard, then these are the areas that these are why you got below that standard or what you could do to improve. And on the right side, here's how you went above that standard. And so you can write either way. And then obviously, if you don't put anything on either end, then the student was at proficient. So you're writing one piece of feedback for each of those standards. So it's an example here that Jennifer Gonzalez created. This is breakfast in bed rubric. So she said there's three criteria. How's the food? How's the presentation? And how comfortable am I? And so if someone's bringing me breakfast in bed and I was to rate this or score it, I would have, in general, okay, it's the correct temperature, it's seasoned well, and I like the way it tastes. If it meets that criteria, I'm just going to say that, yes, it's food. The food is good. But if I have concerns, I can say, well, I think it could have used more salt. I can put needs more salt. Or I can put above, man, I really like that you added chives or whatever to the eggs. So that's the way that the rubric works. So in most cases, kids are going to score right down the middle for the most part. So you're not really even providing feedback. until they're either, again, below or above that standard. Okay. So when you're creating these, and this is a little bit of repeat, but when you're creating these, you first start with your criteria. What is the expectation? So again, this breakfast in bed, you're looking at what components are there that make up breakfast in bed. If you were doing, say, a writing assignment, this may be components from your the star rubric. You take what is a 3, and you take those and you put those down, those five categories. If it was a project, maybe the different elements of the project, and then you describe. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but enough detail to be able to let you know that this was the standard. Here's what I'm looking for. Okay. And then I make sure you give this to the kids when they're doing their assignment or whatever, so they know where they're at. And what I like to do a lot of times is actually give this to them and let them put their own feedback, grade their own work. And then I can do it again. I can, actually take their rubric and make adjustments where they may have said, well, I don't feel like the eggs were, as well seasoned, but then I could say, actually, no, you did a good job, or vice versa. And so that's how you actually create one. Is just look at your standards, look what the criteria is, and try to create some categories there. Okay. So I want to show you just a few rubrics. So I'm going to show you a writing example, one that's more based off like group participation and collaboration. And Matthew, I don't know if I can make those less blurry. Let me see what I can do about that. And then the third is a math rubric. Okay, so I'm going to jump out of this and go here. Let me zoom in just a little bit. So this is an example of a math rubric. Of a writing rubric. And so you can see here they had the criteria, structure, idea development, language and craft, correctness, and they actually did assign a point value. So this is kind of optional. You can put points there or not and say, they got 30 out of 30 or 25 out of 30 or whatever. And they have, these are the things I'm looking for. And so very easily, so if I go simple idea development, if I don't feel like the story has enough exposition or character development, I can say that, or I can say that's really great, but it makes it very, very quick to grade that way because it's very concise. Okay, this one is an example of a kind of group project, so they're grading the actual collaboration piece of that. And you can see they used that very friendly student can language, the way we write our objectives, so students can contribute to the team, and gives examples of how's a student contributing. And one of the things I like about this is the flexibility. A kid does not need to do all those things to say they've met the standard, but if they're doing most of those, then I would say the student is at that point. If not, I can say, well, you really need to work on, say, your problem solving or your conflict management. Or I can say, hey, again, exceeding, you did a really good job working with your teammates and helping them resolve conflicts. So you can work both ways there. You can think it the same way with art. You're looking at the composition, the medium, that type of stuff, and you can put details of what you want them to make sure they include as kind of bulleted points, and then you can count either way based off of that. All right, and the final one I want to show is a math example. And in this one, they are, if I remember right, they're looking at scenarios, function, and they have 4 different ways that they have to show whatever the skill is they're working on. Oh, it's exponential growth. So they have to be able to describe it in words. They have to give a model for it. They have to put it in a table, and they have to graph it. And so in this project, the teacher broke it down by the ways they're showing this, and again, showing concerns, areas they need to improve upon, evidence, and if it's neither of those, then you're just circling that they actually got the stuff right there in the middle. Okay, so that's 3 examples of a single point or 1 point rubric. Go back to the presentation. Yeah. A couple resources for you. The first one is an article by Jennifer Gonzalez, Why One Point Rubrics. She also has a couple other articles linked in that. And then Meet the One Point Rubric. I'm sorry. First one is an Edutopia article. The second one is Jennifer Gonzalez. Both have multiple examples linked in there and talk about, the why and why not of single point rubrics, and when there's times that are appropriate that you don't want to use a single point rubric. So those are resources there. Yep. So our bonus engagement strategy is an activity called IQ Slapdown, and this is used for like test practice, anything where you're doing multiple choice. So this could be looking at a star passage or star question, reviewing after a test, before a test. Actually, probably after test is better. And what you do is you have the kids at home, and you can even do this with the kids in the room as well. Have them take a piece of paper, divide it into 4, and write A, B, C, D on each of the 4 squares, and you tear them apart. And you put up a question. Either this can be on the board, on the projector, shared with your screen like I'm doing right now, or maybe they have an actual copy that they can look at. And they look at the question, and you kind of go through 3 rounds. So round 1, you ask them to put up, which one is like obviously the wrong answer, like the worst answer on there. And have the kids hold up the card they think, the answer choice they think is the worst one. And talk about, okay, why does this make it the worst answer? And then round 2, put up what they think is the distractor, the one that looks kind of right, but we know is wrong. So they put that up and talk about what makes it a distractor. Why is it close but not quite right? And then third, have them put up the correct answer. And it's important to do it in that order because what it does is those kids that have less confidence, you're coaching them into finding a right answer. And by that point, they have a 50% chance of getting it right when they hold the card, and they're more likely to participate and be engaged because you kind of help them through that. And so you're able to talk through and talk about why was this one and not this one. So that's a great strategy when you're doing any sort of test review or looking at anything that has multiple choice in it. Okay. All right, so this is our last learning power up for this week. We'll pick back up again after the Thanksgiving break on December 1st. And so first, second, and third, we're going to be talking about virtual learning stations, motivating our students that are online students, and some cooperative learning strategies that work with both face-to-face and online. And then the following 2 weeks, talking about using things that kids create to use those as assessment. Talk about how do you plan to teach kids the skills when you don't have normal time in the classroom to do that. Ed puzzle. And then we'll talk about guided reading groups with virtual students. We have another session on Classwork Zoom and how to streamline and speed up your attendance using Classwork Zoom. And then finally, showing some things with the Google Classroom mobile app that really help with instruction in the classroom. A lot of cool features built for that app that we don't necessarily know about. If you're interested in any of these sessions, you can go to bit.ly/learningpowerup and sign up for those sessions, as well as go back and watch the recordings of previous sessions, get the slide decks, and get the bonus engagement strategies. So that is about my time. So thank you all very much for joining me, and have a wonderful day.